All right.
An error occurred on Twitter. Awesome. It says, wait a moment and try again. Well, we're live anyways. So cool. Don't care. Twitter's not going. That's okay. Rev, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Actually, it's multiple questions. This is a multiple question quiz, but it's all a pop quiz, and there's one answer to each question.
Okay.
When was the last time a number 1 overall seed in the NCAA men's tournament, so the baseball tournament, made it to Omaha?
Jesus.
It's more recent than you think.
The answer is not Jesus.
You don't know, although they probably thanked Jesus when they got there.
I'm pretty sure I know this one. I think it's Miami in '99.
No, the last team to make it to Omaha, the number 1, just to make it, not win it, but to make it to Omaha.
Well, that was maybe like 4 years ago.
Who you got?
I forget who.
Got 2017, number 1, Florida.
Florida, okay.
Yeah. Now, you kind of hinted, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not wrong, because you said 99 Miami was the last number 1 to win it, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, let me make sure that I'm not wrong. Let me check.
Okay.
99 Miami was the number 1 seed. And yep, you are correct. They won. They beat. This was back before they went to the best of 3, and they beat Florida State 6-5. Before then, it was 1995 Clemson. So those are you have to go back that far to find the number 1 team, 2017, that made it. So you have 18, 19, 21. And I heard the most surprising news about number 1 Tennessee. I feel like you're more in touch with that than I am. What did I've heard rumors about Catholics and volunteers, and I feel like you are in a better position to can you confirm those rumors?
Yeah, I sure can. Vol Nation is on the ledge here. Yeah, they got, as we like to say here, shithoused and sent home.
Yeah, and I was kind of thinking about it. So that means that Tennessee, we did have the conversation last year and said we thought Tennessee would be really good this year.
And they were.
Yeah, they were the best team all season, but they were just, in my opinion, like last year's Arkansas, and because they got pushed in. Last year, Arkansas got pushed to the 2 out of 3 in their regional final, and then they lost in the super regional, and they lost to NC State. And then this year, number 1 Tennessee gets pushed in the regional, right? And they did. Their games outside of what was the one team that got housed?
Alabama State. They beat them pretty bad. Yep.
Yeah. There's some teams you just go, well, we're here. But Campbell pushed them, and Georgia Tech did too. I mean, the amount of home runs they gave up, and then they ran into Notre Dame, and I went over this the other day on Twitter. Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, were the exact same seed as NC State last year.
Well, right, because they would have played the number 1 seed in the super regionals.
Yep.
So they would have had to have come out of the same 16 seed regional.
Yep. And they were also the number 3 seed in their regional, just like NC State was. And they come out of their regional. They came out of what regional did they come out of? I forget.
Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Georgia Southern, Statesboro.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the one with the eagle. And so they come out of there just like NC State last year, and just like NC State beat number 1 Alabama last year. Tennessee gets knocked out by Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame last year was, I believe they were a regional host in 2021. So it's not like, they weren't a good baseball team. to begin with. But yeah, I don't know that many people expected them to go into Knoxville, where Tennessee has been very good. And I mean, they in their first game, how many, when they went up against Tennessee's Friday pitcher, and
Yep.
just how many home runs did they hit? And like
They
had like
hit a
5
home run in
runs.
the first 4 innings.
Yeah, they had like 5 runs in 3 innings or something, and just housed Tennessee in that first game.
Yeah, they sure did. They in the first game I kind of felt was kind of like a baseball thing, where the hits were home runs. If those are all doubles, then yeah, and I understand that, that I'm not making any excuses, but I kind of feel like, once you get this level of good teams, sometimes those home runs are doubles, sometimes those doubles are home runs. And I thought that Notre Dame, getting a home run in each of the first 4 innings, that doesn't happen a lot. But it did, and they beat them. And certainly Tennessee had the very bad strategy of hitting less home runs in that game.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was why they lost. They should have hit more home runs, probably.
Well, they did lead the nation, I think, in home runs this year.
They led everybody in home runs.
Yeah. So for them to hit fewer than Notre Dame, especially again off of their ace, their Friday night guy, the guy he's gonna, if he doesn't, I don't know if he's a super senior or not, or if he's a super senior, but if he, he'll get drafted regardless. And to have that happen, especially in what was his, if he doesn't go into the draft and leave Tennessee.
I don't think he's eligible yet. I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I know the one guy's a freshman, the other guy's a sophomore. Eventually, yes, they were all get drafted, but I think the only pitcher that we have is Blade Tidwell, but he was hurt most of the year. He'll go in the first round for sure. And I also want to point out that Notre Dame beat them on Friday and Sunday wearing their space pajamas too.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yep.
They might have confused Tennessee. And you and I talked, and we don't want to spend a lot of time on Tennessee and their fan base completely falling apart. We have a lot of time for that, because I imagine this is going to go on for a while. Do you know what I think it was? Notre Dame and their dugout, every single time, not just the home runs, but every time you'd get a run, they were out there on the field, and they were crazy. And I think that may have caused some disruption in there. You don't allow that nonsense in the SEC. Yeah.
I really firmly believe that the Tennessee, I mean, basically Tennessee united the Mississippi teams and the Auburn team, or the Alabama teams, that the worst thing in the world is Tennessee baseball. So, they got all those people to agree with that, and that just never happens down here. So I think the Vols, the team, the fans, way over the top, by far, and the fact that they were talking like we're the greatest team of all time, they're legitimately thinking this without even having won anything. And, but yet it kind of made them very, very hateable, and kind of like one of those things where you want to watch a game where you either want to see a team win because that's your team, or you want to see a team get beat because you just hate those guys. And I think Tennessee, in a sport that could use a little more personality, and I'm not saying it's good personality, but Notre Dame was fired up to beat us for sure.
Oh,
and if Notre Dame rolls into play, let's say Stanford or Oregon State, they're probably just going there to play baseball and take care of business or whatever. We're here in Knoxville. I really truly think they wanted to beat them. And then once the Vols got on the ropes, everybody tunes in,
Yeah.
everybody wants to see it. So I think in a sort of a roundabout way, it was good for baseball, for college baseball, to have a team that people either really really passionately liked or really really passionately hated. And that's always been my thing about college baseball for most of the last 30 years. It's pretty vanilla. It's a
Yeah.
great sport. It's a great game, but it doesn't have the passion like the basketball does, or the personalities, or anything like that. But I
Definitely
also
had that this year. This was the mid '90s, early mid '90s Miami for me in college football.
right.
Where swagger that was over the top.
Yep.
Some stuff that we talked about last week, where it was like, there's an amount of swagger that exists, and then you come into this type of thought process and thought pattern, and that's in your whole that permeates your entire team. And it becomes this toxic type of, now people actually hate us type of thing, where it's not just that we're better, they actually don't like us because we're assholes.
Right. And not just the team, but the fans. I mean,
Yeah.
like coming to Knoxville is kind of like getting in the belly of the beast. But and then, like a lot of people were saying, act like you've been there before, right? Show a little class. Well, how are you supposed to do that if you never been there before?
Yep. Tennessee. And
Yep.
Yep. Now, speaking of that, now this is the episode about the College World Series. So you know who we can't talk about? Tennessee.
Yeah.
Because they're not in Omaha. But let's go down the teams that are in Omaha, all 8 of them, and list them off real quick here, because this is important. And we'll list them by seed.
All right.
Number 2, Stanford. They survived UConn. Number 5, Texas A&M. As we talked about, they are running roughshod over teams.
Yep.
Number 9, Texas. Went and I have something about that as well. Number 14, Auburn. All right. Who else is there?
Ole Miss, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and of course Notre Dame.
Okay. I can tell you that I have those 14. And by the way, having half of the field not even having hosted a regional. So they went somewhere else for their regional, and they went somewhere else for their super regional. Some of them, if you will, Texas had to go to Greenville, right? Arkansas, I guess it's not that far to go to Chapel Hill. Mississippi went to Hattiesburg. Yeah, they went south. I am least surprised by Arkansas.
Yeah.
And I'm most surprised, and this is something you and I talked about earlier this year, but the turnaround of Mississippi.
Yeah. Well, because the Vols swept them early in the season, and at that point, everybody was like, this is the matchup for the SEC, and no, it wasn't. But then Ole Miss got pounded, but then Ole Miss they're playing better for sure. I mean, they're peaking at a good time, and there's of the 8, 4 of them are SEC teams.
Yep.
So it's not like the SEC just tanked like the girls did in softball. The SEC teams has Texas A&M and Auburn that were seeded, and then Arkansas and Ole Miss that weren't seeded, and then won both their regional and their super regional. And with Arkansas, kind of like Stanford, you've got 2 really good legacy teams that have been there, done it, know what it's all about. And Arkansas had the disappointing year last year, but they're still not they're a very, very good team, and very intriguing in this for sure.
Oh, yeah. And Susan can tell you that last year I got my birthday wish. It didn't end up being, anything in the long run, but on my birthday, Nebraska did beat Arkansas. And we got to watch that. That was in the Fayetteville regional there, and Nebraska was against Fayetteville in the regional final, and they actually had like 6 innings left, and they were winning in the regional final. And and now Nebraska. But here is I forgot one more quiz question for you, because usually we were talking earlier this week. Can confirm that was it. Yeah, we were over in Hillsboro. We were at a little, I think we were was it Old Chicago maybe? I don't remember. And we watched that, and that was fun. But here's a quiz for you, because again, earlier this week we were talking about Miami, and I said I thought that Miami would have been the nationally one of the most disappointing teams over the course of the past 10, 15 years. But I have a new number one, and I'm gonna name it by quizzing you, and you probably know the answer.
Okay.
Which team, and they were in the field this year, has the most NCAA tournament appearances with 0 College World Series appearances? Basically going to the tournament but never making it to the College World Series.
East Carolina.
Yes. 32 appearances.
Wow.
Zero College World Series.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you have such a big number like that, it's, spread over, so many different, like there used to be a stat where like the Packers were like 10-0 in the playoffs in Lambeau Field. And that was because, there was times in the 30s, and then the Lombardi years, and then the early Favre years. So, I mean, it wasn't like you could pin it on any one thing, but man, 32, that's a lot.
Yeah, that counts this year, obviously. Back in, because you got to think, here are the appearances. And this is NCAA. They were obviously NAIA and stuff. But it does go, you're just going back to 1990, 91, 93, 99, 2000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of those in which they hosted more than once. They were a national seed more than once. 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 15, 16, 18, 19, 21, and 22. And again, they were the number 8 this year. They have hosted, Greenville has hosted many times, and they have never advanced to and they were hosting Texas, number 8, number 9. And that was a good series. But the Pirates, man, this is the team that you start to feel bad for.
Yeah, and they've probably gotten to the tournament more than they should have by winning their conference tournament. If they're an ACC team or an SEC team, there's no way that they get that many bids. Yeah. They're probably a really, really, like a Gonzaga in college basketball, where they're always going to get in because they can win their conference tournament pretty easily, compared to the rest of the tournament. Yeah. So that's probably helped them out, not being in a. But I mean, they've been a good baseball team for sure.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah. Of those, by the way, of those 32, they actually won their regional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those times, or 7 of those times they won the regional. So of that many, they only made it to the super regionals 7 times. So that's not great. And then of course
they're 0 for 7.
Yeah, Owens. It's just they make it to the tournament, and then they do not make it to Omaha. They are anti-Omaha.
They should adapt the strategy of winning the super regional.
Yeah,
clearly not winning the super regional is not working for them.
Yeah, let's make it to where this is can we just guys, can we let's not even worry about anything else, but let's pretend like we're in the regionals again. Let's pretend like we're in the American Athletic Conference and we're playing, like, I don't know, Central Florida or some. I think Central Florida was actually in the tournament or something this year. Or they were in the women's. So I
think they were in the men's too. I think they were.
Because I think AAU, that's also UConn, isn't it?
It could be.
I always thought,
because there's no Big East, right?
Yeah, not in baseball. Because I know that Notre Dame basically is ACC.
I thought UConn might have been ACC too in baseball.
Maybe.
I'd have to look. Could be wrong.
It's so, and you and I follow so many college sports that it's like so convoluted when you go from football to basketball and then into baseball and softball. And again, we talked about the other day where Wisconsin doesn't even have a baseball team and just started the softball thing. So keeping up with that. Now, thankfully, they're always in the Big Ten. But this is.
But hockey, there's no Big Ten hockey. I mean, they have all the different, but the different ones. But I know that there were 9 SEC teams in the tournament, and there were 9 ACC teams. So I'd almost think UConn was ACC because, there was no like Wake Forest or Duke or, I couldn't name maybe 9 other ones, but I know the ACC and the SEC had 18 of the 64,
which is
by far the most, which makes sense because they're all Southern type schools.
Yeah. The only one that made it was the Northern school.
Yeah.
Notre Dame. I'll give you here. How about this? Outside of Tennessee, and by the way, Susan said, I think WIU, that's Western Illinois University, is in a different conference in every single sport. I know that they play in the Missouri Valley in football, and then they play in, I think they're in like the Ohio something in basketball and something else in baseball. They're not even in the same conference as like South Dakota State in some sports.
Right.
And, or even like, I wouldn't, obviously they're not Northern Illinois because that's a whole different thing. But yeah, sometimes it becomes difficult to keep up with that, and you're like, oh yeah, Carolina, they're in the ACC. They beat Notre Dame, and then you find out that Notre Dame's in the Big East for a couple of sports.
Yeah. Well, and back in the day, it would all make geographical sense too.
Yeah.
But nowadays, you got like West Virginia in the Big 12, and that just shouldn't.
They're trying to get Boise, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they think they're the Atlantic Sun Conference. That's the one.
Yeah, well, the Big 12 is in football is like pretty much like what the WAC used to be. They're going to get like Cincinnati and there's nothing wrong with those schools, but it's certainly not replacing Texas and Oklahoma. And
Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Nebraska, and you're being like, yeah, Cincinnati,
or Missouri.
Yeah, well, I mean, let me say Missouri, but like Cincinnati, you're going to replace this with. We're going to get into college football talk. You're going to replace this with Cincinnati, West Virginia, TCU, and Boise State. No, this is like outside of everything else. Especially when your conference has Kansas in it, and Kansas State, Iowa State, Baylor, it's especially because Texas A&M and Oklahoma Texas and Oklahoma, both teams who are in the College World Series going to the SEC, 2 years? And so if that were this year, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 8 would be SEC if Oklahoma and Texas were in the SEC already. Oh no, 6 of the 8. Sorry, Stanford.
6 of 8. And Notre Dame would be. Yeah.
Which would make sense if this was football. But let me take you back to like 2 years, 3 years ago, and I'm going to tell you that Stanford is the number 2 seed and makes it to the NCAA tournament, so it makes it to College World Series, and they're joined by Notre Dame in baseball. I would not believe you.
Right.
But who besides Tennessee, who in these super regionals most disappointed you?
The Beavers for one. You know, not that I thought Auburn was going to win that because they were going to win that series. That was kind of my upset special. But I liked Auburn when I watched them play Tennessee. But I would have to say that that's got to be disappointing for that has to be disappointing for Oregon State. That definitely was one of the ones.
There we go. I had to get rid of something in the chat. You know, people always trying to do nonsense. Yeah, I agree. Oregon State. That's what I was going to say, especially with that number 3 and coming out of a pretty good conference in the Pac-12, and then going and just I didn't think that, like, when it was 4-3 in that final game, I was like, okay, the Beavers have a chance. They're in Corvallis, and it was this. Let me just tell you, this past weekend, this will surprise you, but in Corvallis, it was cool. It was rainy. It was overcast the whole time, I think, and I was like, okay, so this favors the Beavers, and no, yeah, I agree. That was who I was actually going either Oregon State or Virginia Tech.
Yeah, that was exactly the other one I was thinking of too. Oklahoma getting past Virginia Tech.
Yeah, the number 4 overall, and just getting completely housed in that elimination game. Because they lost the first game, so they had to stay alive, and they did. And they turned it around, and they almost doubled up the Sooners, and then they just got.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is another one of those things where it was not an anomaly. Every single day in the tournament so far has had a team score 10 or more runs. And if that continues, that'll be funny. Getting it now. There's not a lot of power left as far as like the top 10 when it comes to home runs, but lots of runs. And both of those, Oregon State, especially with the pedigree they have,
yep,
and Virginia Tech really, really, really disappointed me. I wasn't that surprised with Louisville and Texas A&M. I know that Texas A&M is a really good squad this year.
Yeah, well, and they should have beat Louisville. And unseeded Arkansas beat North Carolina, but I don't think that's a huge upset. Or I think Arkansas is every bit as good as North Carolina. And those were 2 close games, too.
They were, yeah. And then Mississippi Southern Miss didn't even score any runs. And that hurts, seeing, because they were a good defensive team all year, and they made it through their regional. Got past LSU in their regional, which I thought was they were like the trendy pick to not win, to lose their regional, and so them and Georgia Southern, which I'm like, guys, of course you're picking teams that aren't Power 5. Let's stick to Power 5 teams here. You're always going to pick somebody who's not like, if you want to make the safe bet, pick East Carolina.
Yeah.
And I was not surprised. I don't think anybody was surprised when Mississippi beat, Southern Miss.
No.
And I was surprised that UConn took Stanford Stanford had to literally walk off, and they scored, UConn walked it off, and then Stanford turned around and they, but it was like, I didn't expect that at all. I thought Stanford would run roughshod over the Huskies.
Yeah. That was closer than I thought it would be too. But I think Stanford looked, they look solid. The matchup between Stanford and Arkansas is probably my favorite matchup.
I was just looking at that, And I think, yeah, there's so many SEC things on here. I like, for no other reason than I want to see Texas. I want to see Oklahoma and Texas play.
Yeah.
I love the Texas A&M Oklahoma matchup. I think Oklahoma or Texas A&M is going to beat them. I have yet to see a weakness in the Aggies in the tournament. Their pitching, their hitting, their fielding, everything seems to be just in. This is a now Van Horn is up in Arkansas. Who the hell was the coach down in Texas A&M? He's not there anymore, but he's been, they got residual players there and stuff that have kept them, Texas A&M still I think they're going to fall off maybe after this year, because you're talking about 3 years separation.
Yeah.
But I want to see, because no matter what happens, I want to see Texas win, and I want to see them play either Oklahoma or Texas A&M, which is going to happen if they win. I
think Texas could definitely get past Notre Dame. I would pick Texas to get past Notre Dame, and I think you're right. The more likely matchup is A&M and the Longhorns, and A&M missed Tennessee in the SEC tournament. I was so looking forward to that, and stupid Florida knocked them out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and because they didn't play a series, so I was looking forward to that A&M playing Tennessee, but that didn't happen. And I think you'll get Texas, you'll get A&M and Longhorns, and that's a good matchup for college. Actually, in that bracket, as long as Notre Dame loses, Texas Oklahoma is good for viewership, and A&M and Texas is good for viewership.
I agree. Now we won't have a spirited, if you will, national anthem if Texas A&M and Texas play, and the reason for that has to do with a national anthem that was sung in the Women's College World Series championship between Oklahoma and Texas, which is surprising everybody. Oklahoma completely demolished the Longhorns. The person who sung the national anthem, I don't remember his name. He was also scheduled to sing the national anthem in the College World Series at one of the games, and so the NCAA called him up after he did. It was like in the same. He got an email during the game after he sung the national anthem, and they said, "Hey, because you used offensive, used signals that were offensive to a team,
right?
You don't
wear the horns down.
Yeah, yeah. You're no longer invited to sing in the College World Series, and that's because when he did the national anthem, yeah, you're right. He did horns down, and of course, if you're not a fan of sports, that's because that's whenever somebody does that, it's Texas sucks, screw Texas, horns down. And that's because he was a graduate he's an alumni of Texas A&M. And I thought that was hilarious. Nobody really takes that seriously. Apparently he had a good laugh with some of the players. I think this is the NCAA overreacting. This is nonsense. It's not offensive.
It's not offensive. And I agree that it's in the sense that it's not important and it's not offensive, but you have to maintain the anthem singer should be, now if you got your home guy in your home stadium, like the Cubs always do, they bring a celebrity to sing the Take Me Out to the Ball Game, for example. That can be a little more biased, but it just seems like it just seems kind of, I don't want to say unfair, but prejudiced. Sure. Maybe.
Yeah.
So I sort of get it, and he didn't need to do it. He did. So And he probably sucks. I'm guessing. I don't
No,
know.
he's quite good actually. He does it a lot. In fact, during one Texas A&M game earlier this season, I don't remember who they were playing, but he basically he went out there to sing the anthem and he changed into all Aggie gear. You
Yeah,
know, so it's like it's not something that's new for him. I kind of feel like because he seems like a bit of an entertainer. I kind of feel like the NCAA should have said, got in touch with him and said, "Hey, that's not okay. Don't do that again." Okay.
yeah,
And
right,
instead of just saying you don't get to sing anymore because it's offensive. And
right.
I'm like, come on, man. I get slap on the wrist, fine.
Yep.
Also, here it is, horns down, screw you, Texas. Nobody fucking likes you. Sorry, bleep that, whatever. And no bleeping. We don't have that. Okay. And yes, but still we'll get to see hopefully Texas versus either Oklahoma or Texas A&M. And Texas A&M has been a good baseball team for a long time as well. They have, when they were in the Big 12, were regularly in the upper echelon there. And funnily enough, they were in the upper echelon with teams like Texas, obviously Nebraska. Texas Tech was good at baseball for a good while there, and now like all of those teams are gone.
Yeah,
Everything that was good about the Big 12 in baseball is it. Okay, TCU, my bad, but you're also not that good anymore, TCU.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think that did they make the tournament? I think
They might have.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
made the
mean,
tournament, but they lost. Or at
yeah,
least I think that's it. I'd have to look and see. I thought that they made yeah, they did. They were in College Station.
yeah.
Um,
And that's the problem with the Big 12 anymore. Is the way my brain works. Is I'm thinking of the Nebraska, the whole that kind of Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, right? And now it's like West Virginia and Hawaii and Canada U and
yeah,
like
just
Trump
about.
University. It's like whoever they can get is now part of the Big 12. So then I have to go and say, oh yeah, West Virginia is a Big 12 school. But yeah, it wasn't the Big 12 overall is kind of going the way of the whack.
Yeah, seemingly. And of course, I noticed that Oklahoma State, perennial Oklahoma State as well, going and
Yeah, they
losing in their
hosted.
yeah they lost in their regional after doing really they had a badass season. You
Yeah,
know, um, I don't remember if they no Oklahoma State the tournament, which was impressive, uh, especially considering Oklahoma softball team, which again, yes, Oklahoma, we know you won, we get it. Um, that was that team. My God, is so good. But this is I don't know what to think about this College World Series. Like I like it. This goes to show some of the stuff that I was talking about with I think with Susan, and I think I mentioned it last time we were talking that college softball, college volleyball, women's volleyball, um, lots of really dominant teams.
yeah,
In softball, you have Oklahoma, you have UCLA, Arizona, Texas, Florida State, Alabama, those teams. In college volleyball, you have the entire Big Ten, basically. And, these BYU, sure, Stanford is very good. And you have those teams, and you expect to see those teams in, where their Final Four moves around, obviously, whereas the men's and women's College World Series, they're in Omaha and Oklahoma City, respectively. In college baseball, much like college basketball, you have these. This is now the SEC is very good. Yes, that's true. But this shows. You think back to like Coastal Carolina. You think back to Fresno State. These were within 5, 6, 7 years of one another. And Oklahoma or Oregon State going and doing that when they were, back was at the early 2010s. And even though they had gone to the College World Series in 2005 and with the first time since 58 or something, You can not any team, not as like like University of North Carolina, Greensboro, or Alabama State, or actually UCSB. I would say there might anything that comes out of California's got a chance.
Yeah.
But Hofstra, Grand Canyon, you're not going to make it. But
No.
if you take the majority of the number 4 seeds out of every single regional, and you're telling me that if you took Grand Canyon out and Stillwater, you had Oklahoma State, Arkansas, and Missouri State. If you took and you go to Coral Gables, you would have had Miami, Arizona, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
These are teams anybody can go in there. Auburn, Florida State, UCLA. These are teams. Now, mind you, Vanderbilt went to Corvallis, but then it was San Diego, New Mexico State. But like most of the time, you can sit here and go, pick a super regional, take out the number 4 seed, and tell me who wins. And there's a big chance that you could be right. And no matter if you just picked it out of a hat.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot about baseball. And I can tell you, I have no idea who's going to win. I have not even the foggiest.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. I just like the fact that you've got some regional teams playing. So there's some, like we were just talking, A&M, Oklahoma, Texas, all being in one bracket. That's good for baseball. And then on the other side, you got Auburn, Arkansas, and Ole Miss. So you got some natural rivalries. You also have a lot of legacy teams like Texas, A&M, Stanford, Arkansas. So it's like when North Carolina or Duke in basketball, or Kentucky, you just see it. And even if you're a casual fan, you're like, oh, these are the big boy games.
Yeah.
And, the problem with Coastal Carolina, and that was a really good team, but the casual fan doesn't know that, right? Casual fan sees Oklahoma versus Texas. They're like, well, that's got to be good, But if Coastal Carolina's in it and they're casual, they're just thinking, well, this is dumb, But it's cool when those little schools win. But also too, I think it takes away. At the end of the day, upsets are fun, but when you get down to the nitty gritty, you want the top teams in the mix.
Yeah, they also draw the most viewership, obviously. The NCAA would rather not have a Fresno State. They would rather not have a Coastal Carolina because you're talking about they need to make money. And the NCAA exists to make money, folks, FYI. They don't exist for college education, for sure. They don't make money off of Coastal Carolina. I would challenge... because 2008 was Fresno, and at least I think it was. And I would challenge anybody that's not from California, maybe not from the Pacific Northwest, to name Fresno's mascot. And it's like, I think that maybe 50% could say the Bulldog. Nobody that's outside of like California knows that the V stands for the Valley. That's on like their helmet and their uniforms and stuff. And so the NCAA they don't want that team. They want these teams, these big name teams. You just know, like, this could be a football tournament for the most part.
Yeah. Or basketball.
Except for Arkansas, sorry. I'm sorry. You're telling me that you're putting Texas A&M, Texas, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma together in one bracket, and it's double elimination, and put this in a football tournament? Dear God, you'd have the highest ratings ever.
Yep.
Like 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I say, people are gonna buy the gear. They're gonna get invested in it, and it's pretty easy to sell Texas A&M and Oklahoma, or or Stanford and Arkansas for baseball fans, because the NCAA loves that Michigan State Duke matchup. They love those iconic programs going head to head that don't play in the same conference. They really like that. And the nice thing about Auburn and Ole Miss is, two teams that are probably not as legacy driven, but they're two SEC teams. So it works out really good because people will give a damn about it because it's two SEC teams. So it's a pretty interesting, bracket. And it would have been, and I'm sure the NCAA would have loved Tennessee to be up there with Texas, Oklahoma, and A&M.
Yeah.
But they're not. And but in the upset was cool and fun, and especially with those silly gold helmets and pajamas that they were wearing. But I tell you, they look like space pajamas from like the 50s. Like those little kids in the 50s, 60s movies. They just need like a little fake laser gun on their, like a pew pew gun on their jerseys, and totally space pajamas. And that's the downside to the upsets, except like you pointed out, NC State upsets Arkansas. They go all the way to the Final Four and then lose in the they didn't even lose. They had to forfeit because of COVID to Vandy.
And that pissed off their entire fan base.
Yeah, and they could have beat Vandy. I'm not saying they would have, but they could have certainly, and then been in the finals. And certainly, Mississippi State wasn't unbeatable. Mississippi State going into the tournament wasn't, one of the strongest teams either. So there again, NC State, beat a lot of really good teams to only forfeit because of COVID.
Yeah. And, I don't know that the NCAA will ever come back from that. I mean, notice that they didn't make the tournament this year. From what I understand, you look at like the teams, and this is something we'll get into, I think, at in a future episode here before the end of the College World Series. But when you talk about teams that had expectations to go and do something, NC State has to be up there. Like this year, they didn't make the tournament at all. They were expected to go out there and really, I mean, just a bit of a surprise last year, but a big returning core this year, and their fan base certainly wanted it. I just, I think that they were a little bit overhyped going into the year. Because again, last year was that nice story, but that was I thought Arkansas was a lot like Tennessee this year. Yeah. To where, I don't know, maybe it was that that the teams they were playing played a little bit of like a different type of baseball than they would have gotten the SEC, or whatever it might have been. But they go in and they Tennessee, or last year Arkansas, and this year Tennessee with Notre Dame. I'm trying to find those unis. I think I may have. Yes, here they are. Let me just grab that real quick here. From SB Nation here. Let me just boop. I'll grab that. I'll put it on the screen.
Mississippi State didn't make the tournament this year either.
Yeah. So you have your finalists from last year, and boop. There we are. There's Notre Dame's unis right there. These are the ones they wore just the other day, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But to get the full effect, they got to show them with the gold, the silly gold helmets.
Yeah, I realized that after I pulled it up here. I was like, oh, right, I got to do that because that was that was something else. Let me see if I can find it here while we kind of like wrap a few things up here. Not that one. It's just that here we go. Oh, it's from the Knoxville News Sentinel.
Oh, yeah.
The photo on there now is of a Tennessee player. Dang it. Before it was Notre Dame players celebrating. So now it's you go, CBS Sports should give me something good here. There it is. Okay, yeah. CBS Sports will do it. So but we will And while I'm showing this, we'll wrap here, and there we are. There you go.
Yeah, look at how ridiculous those are.
Look at that. I like that I can actually see that the stadium is full. In the helmet there, looking and seeing it say, yeah, that is oof.
Yeah, and what's on the collar or on the arm sleeve, and then they got
Yeah.
that same shit going down their leg. All I can tell you is that those uniforms were very pleasing to the baseball gods, which definitely do exist. And and they won 2 games, Friday and Sunday. So my strategy for Notre Dame to beat Texas is don't watch the space unis. Just keep bringing back the space unis until they displease the baseball gods.
Yeah. And I did notice that they are, of course, sponsored by Adidas. So that makes more sense. Now they're not as, Adidas has some pretty crazy uniform designs. They're not as good, outrageous as Under Armour stuff, especially the stuff you see with Maryland. But Adidas is not Nike when it comes to making up some really flashy stuff. And I know that as a Nebraska guy, I can tell you there have been very few space. There you go. This says space unis. So, but okay, let's wrap this up, because we obviously I'm taking the corgis to the dog park.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave here in like 10 minutes, so I miss some traffic. Because we are going to continue this, but and you'll get a chance to. We'll continue that. We're going to continue our conversation in a different episode, but you get a chance to recant. But off the top of your head, who do you think wins?
I'm going to take my final 4. In bracket 1, I'm going to take A&M and Texas is the 2 that I think get to the finals. And then in the other bracket, I'm going to take Stanford and Auburn.
Okay. I do have Texas A&M and Texas, and I have Arkansas and Stanford. So we have 3 of the 4 that we agree with, which means there's no way in hell this is going to happen. It's like, watch Oklahoma, and I mean, because Oklahoma, Texas A&M, there's something there, Texas A&M is a better team, but yeah.
I don't know that they're a better team, but they're playing better right now.
Yeah, I think they're playing the best of any team in the tournament.
Yeah, they're just housing everybody.
Yeah, and you would think it has to end at some point. Will it end? I think they play tomorrow.
Friday.
I think they play. Okay, so the other teams are playing on Thursday.
No, Saturday. According to this here, bracket 1 plays on Friday, starting at 1 p.m., and then bracket 2 plays on Saturday.
There it is. Yeah, so 17th and 18th. So I would agree with you that for the most part, I'm staying away from Auburn. I don't know why. I'm staying away from Auburn. I think that Arkansas, not making it last year, and not as experienced, certainly missing a pitching core, but I think that Arkansas is gonna make it there and make it into the final of their bracket, and so we'll see. We also been doing this on this channel, and actually making another channel, because something with sports,
Yeah.
College sports.
I mean,
screw all your NFL.
What's that?
I was like, college sports, screw all you guys in your NFL.
Well, I like the NFL. But yeah, I mean, as we represent 66% of the secular sports followers, it only makes sense to put that on YouTube.
Yeah, there's 3 of us.
Yeah, we got to
I
find
have
the
to
other guy.
find
We
the
don't
other
know what
one.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that. Actually, I hope that it's not a. I hope that it's not a like a white cis het dude. You
Yeah.
know, I want to find somebody else. Let me find some. There's no diversity amongst overall really amongst secular folks, anyways. But damn it, if we could find somebody, let make it so that it's like, please, be Susan obviously likes some sports,
Yeah.
but
There you go.
I think Susan likes sports. College, she's an MLB fan. She's Texas Rangers fan.
Hmm.
So yeah, they're a team. I think they were 500, or they were close to 500. I was looking at it the other day, kind of laughing. They might have gone back below 500. It would make sense. They're not the Mariners, who always start hot, and then I always say they're going to plummet. And yes, again, Seattle. That's the closest. That's the closest team to us. So
yeah.
Us here in Portland. So
Yeah, here in Tennessee, Major League Baseball is pretty much the Braves, because we really don't have a team. So mostly Brave fans here.
We'll take the Athletics in Portland.
Yeah,
just saying, or Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
you want to stop playing the Yankees? Come out here.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it for this little episode right here. We wanted to be at about an hour, and I feel like an hour is a good time frame. Yeah. There's a lot of sports this week. I don't know what we're gonna do after the College World Series. This is to be over in June, and then we have like July to I don't know, talk about other stuff, and then into August he's going, all right, cool. It's like training camp, and so we can talk about Alabama again. Yay! So excited to talk about Alabama football and Nick Saban again.
Yeah.
Yay! Talk about how much Scott
there'll have
Frost
to be a draft or something going on in July. I don't know.
There's an MLB draft.
Yeah, that's coming up. That'll be interesting, actually.
Yeah, you want to keep up with all 50 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, and the people are like drafting the broom closet, and they draft like a pickup truck. They like really, down.
They do.
One guy started like drafting his kids back, Ron Schuler back in the day. Because he was mad because they had to sit there for like 70 rounds or something ridiculous, and he just started like drafting his kids.
What is it 255, 256 in the NFL draft? How many is it?
I think 8. They do 8 now. It used to be like 16 or 12, but I think they only do 8 rounds anymore.
Okay. Because I think it's in the 200s, but it's like Mr. Irrelevant or whatever. Yep. I'm just like, if you're in the 3rd round of the MLB draft, that's where you are. That's who you are. Congratulations, you made it to single A. And nobody's gonna know who you are. So
well, and the baseball draft compared to football and NBA is so much more hit or miss.
Yeah,
like guys like Mike Piazza were drafted. He was a nephew of Tommy Lasorda, and he was drafted in like the 40th round or some ridiculous number like that. But you look at like a lot of the first round drafts through the 80s and the 90s, a lot of those guys never even got close to the majors. Whereas in the NFL, sure, there's some busts, but there ain't a lot of NFL first round picks that don't play. They might not last a long time, but they get there at least. Same with NBA, but in major leagues,
Deshaun Watson. Deshaun made it, and probably he has 26 civil cases now, I think.
Well, there you go. That's what we can follow in July.
If
keep the scoreboard on that.
When is the all right, cool. We got I don't know, 3 touchdowns, a field goal, and a safety.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be on next time. I hope we can talk about Tyreek Hill and Antonio Brown and how they're the same person.
Okay.
Need another whiteboard. Susan said, need another whiteboard.
Yeah.
I've got those for sure. All right, Rev. insert weird sign off here. See, this is why we need our channel, so I can make graphics or never make them. Who knows?
Yep.
I get around to it. I have, I do animation and stuff. I can make a ball bounce across the screen.
There you go.
You can make a little thing, there you go. All right, man. See you next time.
Peace out.